Welcome to the Rowdy Studio. I'm Buzz Cutler, sitting alongside Bassmasters.
We're teammates.
Oh, that's nice, Bass.
Yeah.
You consider me a teammate?
Yeah, you're going to give up the position to give me a championship, right? Right? Cutler?
Yeah. I'm going to do that because we're teammates. You know, it's an interesting point you bring up.
Oh, yeah.
In all seriousness, because we saw it as recently as last week at Phoenix, where Jeff Burton, a Richard Childress racing driver, gave up a spot to Tony Stewart, a Stewart-Haas racing driver, in order to help Tony maybe get one more position, one more point in his pursuit of Carl Edwards. Now, they are both Chevy drivers, so they're not teammates, they're manufacturer mates.
Well, I think the interesting case really isn't so much what Jeff Burton did as what he might have not done if the car behind him had been Carl Edwards, right? Because what he did was he kind of rolled over, but Tony was a little faster, so he just didn't fight him for the position. So that's pretty defensible in a lot of cases. Hey, third, fourth, Jeff Burton, it really wasn't that big a difference, but it was a big difference to Tony Stewart.
He let him by, man. He let him by.
So he more or less let him by. And I think when you get to Homesetad-Miami, on the face of it, it seems like a simple thing. These two guys, they're racing head-to-head. They're only 3 points apart. If either guy wins the race, he wins the championship. It's just that simple. But the fact of the matter is, we could get to a situation where they're both in the top 5 or the top 10 and they're very close to each other, and one position here or there could determine the champion. And don't be surprised if there's a lot of Fords up there racing around with Carl Edwards, and don't be surprised if there are a lot of Chevrolets up there racing with Tony Stewart. And then that raises the question, what would another driver do to help his fellow Ford or fellow Chevy or his teammate?
I think it's quite clear. I think if Tony Stewart is in 4th and Carl Edwards is in 6th, and smack dab between them is Matt Kenseth is going to pull up and let Carl Edwards by. They are teammates. You've used the analogy before of like the Tour de France, how you've got a team helping protect one guy and push him forward and push him to victory. That's what's going to happen this weekend at Homesetad-Miami, and it's not just teammates. As we've said, it's people who share a manufacturer. And I know some NASCAR fans, some old school NASCAR fans are probably up in arms about this, but it is modern day NASCAR, so you might as well get over it. It's what's going to happen. It's here to stay.
Well, I think there's a couple things. I think you're right. I think it's pretty clear what a guy would do. Number one, he would let a teammate or a fellow manufacturer mate lead a lap to get that bonus point. So I think you'll see Tony Stewart and Carl Edwards, all things being equal, get that bonus point that they'll be looking for whenever they can get it. Number two, I think the guys would give up a position as long as it wasn't first.
Yes, I agree with you.
Okay, and I think that right now, because the whole teammate thing has become such a big part of NASCAR racing. They share notes before the race. They coordinate the setups that they're working on. So it's a huge part of how they race. They already give up bonus points to each other with no problem. Obviously, you guys have been giving laps back to each other for many, many years. So the whole teammate thing really plays a role. I still think it's a bridge too far for a guy to give up a victory, although you could certainly see it. You know, Ryan Newman in 1st, his boss in 2nd, Carl Edwards in 3rd, and if Ryan lets Tony pass, Tony wins the championship, and if he doesn't, he doesn't. That's a lot of pressure, but I still don't see him doing it.
Not only do I not see Ryan doing it, I don't see Tony wanting him to do it. They pride themselves on being racers, but there's another aspect of this. Remember Paul Menard at Richmond, where there were the rumors and the buzz that he spun intentionally to bring out a caution to help his teammate. Now, that's not the kind of thing that anybody's going to admit to. Jeff Burton basically admitted to letting Tony Stewart by, and I don't think NASCAR looks askance at that.
That's part of the give and take of racing.
That's part of the give and take of racing. But a teammate, spinning accidentally to bring out the caution.
And that would be bad. But I tell you what, if I'm Ford or I'm Chevy, or certainly if I'm Roush Fenway and I'm Stewart-Haas and maybe along with Hendrick, I am thinking about my intra-team communications, what we're trying to accomplish, what can we do on pit road. For example, do I want a guy on the team to try 2 tires early to see what it's going to do? Things like that.
It could even come into play with pit stall selection. Do I want to try to get teammates on either side of me?
Right.
Bookending me.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. What do I do in practice? I mean, certainly teammates have always been working together in practice and preparing for the race, but will it be any different now that there's clearly one guy you need to maximize his performance for? I think that's just, there's a big team aspect to this that I would hope and I would assume that Roush Fenway Racing, there's a lot of communication there about what can we do to give Carl Edwards the best chance that he can have to win this championship.
But let's remember, it goes beyond Roush Fenway Racing. You've got Richard Petty Motorsports.
And they're very tightly integrated.
Who's going to be in on that. Hell, you might even have Front Row Motorsports. Not that they'll have a lot of influence,
right,
but these other smaller Ford teams or other smaller Chevy teams coming into play.
Absolutely. And the pit box thing is a perfect example. So I think there's a lot of team aspects to this that are pretty interesting when you sit back and think about it.
All right, that's Bassmasters. I'm Buzz Cutler. We'll be watching the race on Sunday. No, you will too, and we'll be back on Monday to talk about your 2011 NASCAR Sprint Cup champion.
And you're going to let me by, right?
I'm going to let you by?
Yeah. Aren't you?
Yeah, well, you know.
Rowdy.com. Say it like it is.
Say what like it is?
Rowdy.com.